Introduce myself. If some of you guys might have heard of me or anything like that before, but I know I'm probably like a little less known amongst the scene, because I like to try and just to try and help people out kind of behind the scenes, like kind of like doing my own thing, but just like to try my hand to do my first video log series. Alright, just to kind of describe my own scene a little bit. The first time I got introduced to the Dead or Alive series was with Dead or Alive 2, also known as the Dead or Alive 2 Millennium Edition from early 2000. So that's the first time I got my hand, just ended up getting a bit of a glimpse at DOA. What I ended up seeing when I ended up seeing that game, I mean, it was an arcade cabinet. What I ended up seeing was just gorgeous backgrounds, just beautifully designed characters, beautifully animated. I mean, just the stages and everything just happening on the screen just looks so darn good. I mean, yeah, I didn't know what the hell I was kind of doing at the time. I was just kind of mashing buttons, but as soon as I saw Dead or Alive 2, that arcade Academy Millennium Edition, I knew the game was something special. So a bit later down the line at a GameStop or EB Games, like one of those kind of stores, I ended up getting a glimpse of a game called Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore. Alright, that game was pretty much the PS2 version of Dead or Alive 2. I mean, from the cover I was like, huh, what is this? Then I looked at the back and I saw that, yeah, this is that game that I just loved playing in the arcades. But so naturally I gave it, I had to pick up the game. I gave the game a shot at home, and I pretty much just loved it. I mean, like, just to get a bit of a perception, I was still like very casual at this time, so I didn't know anything about fighting game communities or anything like that. I'd pretty much just gotten there, mashed buttons, and like cool shit was happening, and I was like pleased. But of course, if you end up kind of fast forwarding a bit more to, if you end up fast forwarding to about 2012, I think in late September, a little thing called Dead or Alive 5 dropped. That game, I'll say, was the first DOA game I actually kind of looked at, tried to play competitively. With that game, I just kind of decided firsthand that the character that just really caught my eye the most was Ayane, and I was just thinking that why not? I'm gonna end up learning the character, like just end up giving her a shot or something like that. So what I ended up doing for my first time was I ended up spending about like 2 hours, and I was just basically just doing like anything I could. So I was like pretty much looking over her moveset, which was kind of was huge, was gigantic. So I was just trying to get a feel for, just kind of get a feel for how the game was. So I mean, I was actually kind of a bit fortunate that for the actual first tournament that I went to, like way back in like 2012 October, called T13, I was actually kind of surprised how decently I did, even though I was just kind of just like messing around and like everything like that. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I somehow, I mean, yeah, it wasn't really a huge tournament, but I somehow managed to snag third in that, and it's like, wow. I mean, the funny thing is I still didn't know what the hell I was doing, but obviously I must have be doing something right if I managed to be able to end up getting wins over opponents. I mean, one of the opponents I actually ended up getting a victory over ended up being someone that I ended up actually kind of admiring a bit in my own kind of community. I mean, the guy goes by, his tag is Nan Who Drops Her Hood, so I mean, he's a really brilliant Brad player. But yeah, so I mean, that's just a very, very like small like a snippet of my kind of like background with this game. And remember that this was still back in 2012 when I was still like really new to like DOA. I mean, I've been playing it since DOA 2, but I pretty much was not knowing what the hell I was doing from like DOA 2, DOA 3, DOA 2U, DOA 4. So, but with 5, for some reason I just decided to just step down and say that like this is like what I want to play.
You're not even worthy of being my toy.
It was probably more so leading up to about. It was more so leading up to about towards Dead or Alive 5 Ultimate is when. That's when I actually started to really, I'd say, like contribute to my scene. Like what I mean was that's when I actually started to end up putting forth some contributions to actually kind of like get tournaments happening. Because what happened was that like early on things actually started quite. Early on things actually started out quite good. Like we were getting like okay, like decent numbers for tournaments. But around like around like February or like March of about like 2013, the scene kind of just like died off. So I mean, like for instance, I went in for like an event in April, and like literally I was the only one there for DOA, and that actually did kind of like piss me off a bit. But I didn't use that to get discouraged or anything like that. I used it as just kind of motivation to try and like get better at just try and get. Well, not necessarily better at the game, but just to like try and make contributions to the scene. So it wasn't until about like June of that year where we finally ended up getting another DOA tournament like happening. Like I'll just be honest, for that tournament we only got about 6 people, but I was just kind of glad that happened though, because I noticed that if I didn't end up like making a bit of like if I didn't take an action there to try and get something going, I know the scene would have just the DOA scene would have probably just died off right there. Like just to let you know like where my like region is from. Like I'm from southern Ontario, like close to the kind of like Toronto area. So that's basically like my territory. It's the scene that I try and like build up. So I know that everyone's kind of like offline experiences are different, but right now I can say that the way how the offline scene is now going for DOA in 2015 here around the Toronto area is actually a lot better than how it was like before, like let's say before 5U came out. Like for instance, in fall of 2013, we even had a player from Buffalo. I mean, well, he goes by the tag Sekukin. Like, I'm actually not sure if he still plays the game, but it was just still awesome to have a Buffalo player here. And like even next year in 2014, we actually ended up helping out his scene, and we got something going around late summer, and we actually ended up having casuals out in Buffalo, which is like still like quite a bit of a drive from where I was. So I brought my friend Nan, who drops there, and I just kind of came along. So I mean, just like little things like this can just really kind of like boost the experience. But I'm gonna be going on to like a bit of a different topic here. Now I'm gonna be going on to DOA within the general fighting game community. This is an area I think that can be. This is an area where probably DOA can be incredibly shaky. I'll just say how to get. I mean, if you actually want to get a kind of just to give a bit of an idea of how DOA can be a bit perceived in the general fighting game community. When you end up Googling the term Dead or Alive 5 Last Round, the first thing I end up seeing is the 6 most pervy outfits in DOA. I'm like, what the hell is this shit? I'm like, really? When I end up looking up Tekken 7 just for contrast, what I end up seeing is top 8 from the Evo of just this past year in 2015. I mean, even though Tekken 7 was just there in the kind of in the arcade, kind of just in its kind of arcade format, but
yes, I can do
but what I'm trying to just get at here is that when I end up looking at things for like DOA, the things that end up getting the most views, or the things that you end up seeing, that end up being pretty much just the things you end up seeing is just for DOA you end up seeing stuff that's just based around like the sex appeal, like really kind of perverted kind of stuff like that. Whereas for if you look at like other games like Tekken or like Street Fighter, you would end up finding you're much more likely to end up finding match videos. Like I actually think that can be a pretty big. I actually think that can be a pretty big deal though, because if you're trying to get into a fighting game like DOA or more specifically Dead or Alive 5 Last Round, a challenge that I find a lot of players run into is finding helpful resources to help them level up. Examples being is like I've had numerous players in my scene that kind of or even like players I've kind of met at tournaments here in Canada that they kind of complain that they would like to learn the game, but they just can't. They either like can't find anyone to play with, or there aren't any like resources to help them like level up. Like I find that can be a bit of a problem with the scene. But I mean that's obviously is one issue, even though kind of a bit of almost a root cause for that kind of problem can be just the. I just find there can be revolving around just like DOA in general. With the way how the game operates, or even like what the game is, there can be a lot of I find ignorance revolving around that. Although I'm pretty certain that probably a really big cause of that can be just kind of how the DOA franchise has kind of like always been. Like even going back to like Dead or Alive 1, like DOA was just DOA, even like with DOA 1, like one of the big gimmicks for the game was that the girls have these big bouncy boobs everywhere. I mean, like, the game also had the game also had the kind of gimmick of having large explosive danger zones, so it was very flashy. But when you think of DOA, the only thing that people end up remembering are the big boobs. And I find though, I mean, that ends up offsetting the huge multitude of things that the game ends up actually doing right. Which is just kind of, I mean, the awesome game mechanics with beautiful stages, beautiful character designs. I mean, the game just looks really great visually. I mean, fluid animations. I mean, it's a really top-notch, and in my opinion, is a heavily like underrated fighting game. Because when you come down to it, the only thing that people tend to remember is like the aspect of the game that, in my opinion, should not really be that big a deal. Like I admit, it's probably more of like a Western thing than like a Eastern thing, where of course sexuality is really kind of considered tabooed and like frowned upon in the West. Whereas I find it more like in a country like Japan, they're not really so worried about. They don't get hung up on that sort of stuff as much. So that's why like a game like DOA. For instance, like the sex appeal in there, they don't worry about that so much. And really, I mean, as for Japan itself, since they got an arcade scene there in, I think, late 2013, after Dead or Alive 5 Ultimate, I mean, the Dead or Alive's just been doing really much better competitively in Japan, like once they get an arcade scene going, because if a game like doesn't have an arcade scene in Japan, then it doesn't really like grow or go anywhere. So, I mean, for the ignorance and the kind of perception of the game, I mean, unfortunately, with regards to like Team Ninja and all that, I mean, like, unfortunately, yeah, they do release a lot of kind of sexually suggestive DLC and whatnot. I mean, I admit it's mostly because of Koei Tecmo, because they need to make they need to make the money off the games. But if I actually don't mind having having that kind of sexual DLC produced if it means that Team Ninja can fund another, let's say, Battle Royale tournament circuit like what they did in 2015. So I mean, so what I'm kind of getting at though is that what we need to do is that we need to try and. What I'm getting at is that we just need to we just need to kind of do what we can to try and just help out. Just end up just like helping out the community grow. All right, of course, one of the biggest suggestions is that if you can, try and build your own like offline scene, like just kind of just end up like putting stuff together. So I mean, if you like to see like on a forum, for instance, like Free Step Dodge, or like on like Facebook groups or any sort of like social media, see if you can just get people to come together and just like enjoy the game that you love. Like for me, I'll say like I really like DOA. Like I will say the game is not perfect, but the game is not perfect, but it, like I said, it's still a pretty damn good game. I mean, the balance of it also is, all things considered, is pretty solid compared to most fighting games. So I do stand by my choice for this to be my main game. So yeah, if it is possible for you to be able to produce any sort of offline gatherings or anything like that, like, please try and do so. Although I will also acknowledge that not everyone is able to produce an offline scene. So I mean, like a suggestion I can do is to try and is just contribute on social media in the form of like tech guides, like showing different like character tech or different techniques. I mean, just basically like for instance in like character forums or anything like that. Like you can like share videos of like different techniques or different kind of strategies you can use, or even just simply try and promote the offline like tournament scene. Like for instance, there was the awesome battle royale for Dead or Alive 5 last round in 2015 that started around February and culminated in the very awesome NEC 16 tournament back in December of 2015. So I mean, if you can like just promote that in some way, just so other people can end up knowing about it. So for any people that actually are able to produce an offline scene, then you can end up having them join in this sort of thing. But now I'm going to be going on to my third aspect of this. My third aspect of this talk now is about DOA online play. Like obviously, if you're unable to play the game offline, or you can't find anyone to play with in your area within a reasonable range, I mean, saying that you have to travel more than, let's say, like 2 hours to get to someone, for instance, then yeah, you'll probably have to just rely on online. I will say that just the kind of online environment for DOA, I find it overall it can be it can be a bit of a negative experience. What I mean though is that it's not that the people who play online are bad inherently, but it's a combination of that, just the environment, and just you can kind of get what I consider unsavory players, like basically players that have like bad attitudes or anything like that, players that get really salty, they rage quit, they just end up giving you grief and end up giving you a headache. And this is just from the environment itself. This isn't even taking into account that you have to play with a massive amount. You have to play with like a massive amount of lag. And what I mean by that is, with the amount of lag that you have to like put up with in DOA, it just makes the experience like really uncomfortable. I mean, so if you end up combining like the kind of bad attitudes with like laggy gameplay, that, I mean, from my experience compared to offline play, that I find that like laggy online play, like it doesn't properly reflect how the game is supposed to be played. So if it's all you have, I'd say it's definitely like better than nothing. But I mean, if you're like know like how offline play is and you like play online, and you can kind of understand what I mean when I end up just complaining about it a lot. But yeah, but I mean, if that's what you have to end up dealing with, and if you have a lot of patience for it, then I admit that that's what you have to that's what you have to deal with. But going back to like what I said earlier, that if you do only have online, like I guess like trying if you can find ways to make it a positive experience. Like one tool of online that I find is actually quite awesome is the included online dojo. That is actually a really cool feature that they added into the game. It allows you to just practice stuff with a friend. Like I know that there's some players out there. I mean, again, I guess if he doesn't mind me just saying it, I know that Panic, It's Tyler, and Rendered Star use online dojo to great effect. So, I mean, they end up discovering like it's basically like a two-way street where you end up helping each other out and developing more tech. Like that, I find to be like a very productive use of like online play. If you're just playing online and just raging at like ranked matches, like I find that to be like very unproductive. Or just raging at people in lobbies, like it's not really like doing anyone favors, and everyone's, or at least yourself, ends up being much angrier after that is done. But just kind of like continuing on, but if you are unfortunately have to kind of only can really play online, what I would say is maybe try and balance it out with doing quite a bit of like, let's say, work in the lab. Like a lot of times, like when I'm not, obviously I can't go to my offline scene every day. Like on average, I only really get it maybe about once a week. So that means that in between, what I usually end up doing is just I end up like practicing stuff in the lab. So you can end up practicing stuff in the lab, or you can end up, even lo and behold, playing against like the level 8 AI actually can be. Playing against the level 8 AI can be kind of helpful, because I find that the AI does react like how you're supposed to with regards to the game. Like I can just do like just one random match here.
You're gonna be in for some pain.
Prepare. Get ready. Fight.
I will say though that playing the AI isn't perfect, because their reaction times can be a little crazy. On level 8, the reaction times can be a little crazy, but for the most part they kind of react like how you're supposed to react in like certain situations, such as like knowing when to sidestep, when to use high crush moves, different things like that. So I mean, you could try it out. Like, you might not like it, and of course the AI does fall for like certain techniques, but it is an option though if you're like unable to like play offline regularly. It's just kind of, I mean, to play offline regularly is that in between playing online, you can actually also play. You can try different things, train in the lab, or train in the lab, playing the AI, like doing like, there's lots of different tools here for DOA. Anyways, I'm just gonna go over now 3 tips that can help you out with your DOA journey. One of the first things I definitely recommend is studying your chosen character's moveset constantly. So that means like going through command training regularly, especially if your character has like over 100 moves. Like I can show you just the command training here for Ayane. See right here, she has about she has 144 moves listed. But it's, well, technically she actually even has more moves than that because some certain moves, such as moves done from when you're like from a grounded position, are not listed. So she probably has a total of probably closer to about 150. I mean, I know that because well, or probably even more than 150 because it doesn't have, for instance, it doesn't end up listing moves from like special circumstances and stuff like that, like the aforementioned like grounded attacks. So. Like, whenever I'm learning a new character, the first thing I do is just kind of go through the command training regularly. Like, it helped me a lot for learning, like, Ayane and Christy and, like, Kasumi. For some characters that are easier, like Rachel or Momoji, I mean, you don't have to go through the command training as much, but it's still helpful to know, like, everything your character is capable of. Because even, like, when I'm trying to learn someone like Helena, for instance, what I actually end up almost doing when you end up going through the command training is you end up seeing techniques and end up just thinking of, do I use this move or can I like do something with this move? I mean, just different stuff like that. And of course, I mean, like, the more you go through it, the more that you can kind of almost just blitz through it, like no problem or anything like that. Where the first time you go through it, you might end up getting stuck on certain things, or you might end up not remembering things. But I find that the more you go through it, the main focus is to get your character's moveset ingrained into your mind. So, because obviously in a real match, well, I assume in like a competitive match, you're not going to have the moveset out. You're gonna have to try and like memorize it or something like that. So that's definitely something that I recommend. The second tip I end up going to be having for you is to turn on the move details. Is turn on the move details for your chosen character and just study all the properties of your characters. So this includes like frame data, knowing what's safe and unsafe, and like evaluating properties of like different moves. So, I mean, if you're trying to like learn like a character properly, you're not only are you gonna have to like go through the move list to try and familiarize yourself with everything. I mean, you also have to end up knowing like frames and everything like that. Like right here I have on the move list. Like the one on the left is for Ayane, the one on the right's for Christy. But see, of course, I mean, when you have like well over like 100 moves or over 140 plus moves, I mean, when you're learning the character, you're gonna need this. I admit I keep this thing on a lot because there's just a lot of crap to remember and stuff like that. But I find, of course, the tool that you can probably gonna find really useful is your frame data. See, it lets you know your frames of like everything, like frames on hit, frames on block, like how much frame advantage you get in like certain situations. So I mean, lots of useful information here. I mean, I won't necessarily go over it because I have gone over the move details in a specified video, which was very lengthy. Just to give you an idea, I mean, if you just look here how much stuff there is, then with your right stick you push it in, you can scroll, and you get even more stuff. I mean, being able to tell you how far a move reaches can be can be surprisingly useful. I mean, you don't really find this kind of stuff in other fighting games. I mean, it's good enough that it gives you the frames, but it gives you like the damage, like different statuses. Hell, it even tells you whether you're facing forward or backwards. But I find the distance one can be really great if you like to play like a keep out or like footsie or Pokken or like zoning kind of game. So yeah, and then there's even the third aspect of the move details, which goes over a lot of more kind of advanced stuff, such as like knowing how big the window is for like a delaying a move, for instance. Like that too, I also went over in the move details tutorial. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff here that you basically just like don't get in other fighting games. So definitely recommend using these tools. All right, and the third tip I'll give you for today is just to, or for this session, is just after you're kind of done studying your chosen character, what you can also do is just study like your opponent's character or characters that give you trouble. So basically study the movesets and properties of other characters. I mean, yeah, I mean, with this Dead or Alive 5 last round, there's over like 34 characters, so it's obviously going to take a long time. So what I can just really recommend is going over the moves sets of characters, for instance, that give you trouble. Like if either like Ayane or Christie or anyone like that gives you trouble, look at what they can do. So you can do that with both the move details and to see like what moves they have, you can use the move list. But of course, I mean, and what you can also do is go through their like command training too. So I mean, generally, anytime you're looking at a new character or anything like that, I usually recommend going through their command training. Don't worry for matchup knowledge if you get stuck on a move. Just like skip it or anything. The main point is just to get kind of a visual of the move, so you know what you're looking for. Like once you know like which moves are like giving you trouble, if it's like Christie 6P or something, then just like check out the like properties of it. Like I know it is unsafe on block. Well, if I free cancel it, I'd be like negative on hits. I mean, early on until the third hit stuns. I mean, like different things. I know you can hold the second hit on reaction. So I mean, just little things like that. So it's the same thing as with when you're learning your character. Know what's like safe, what's or know what stuff is safe, what's unsafe, and like how tools may be used. Like with Christie, like when can she like transition into Jukayo? Like different stuff like that. Anyways, that's it for now, and thanks for being able to just like tolerate my yapping for my first attempt at a vlog. But thanks for tuning in, and I wish you good luck on your DOA journey. This is Force of Nature signing off.